Data Storytellers. Today on the show, I have with me Michel Spalburg. Michel is the Global Director of Analytics at Adidas, or Adidas, depending on whether you're in Europe or in North America. There are different pronunciations, different schools of thought on the topic. But Michel, they are working on some interesting and exciting stuff over at Adidas, and today we are going to explore his professional journey, some of the trends in data analytics in the corporate world today, and maybe some of his insights on navigating organizational change when it comes to analytics. So Michel, first of all, welcome on the show.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
So Michel, you've been in analytics for a while now in different roles and with Adidas for over 5.5 years. But first of all, before we explore what you guys are working on, what brought you into the world of analytics to begin with?
Well, I had a lot of jobs when I was young. During my study, I did a co-study, co-working situation. I was an interaction designer. I did account management, so a lot of sales experience, and I was a project leader of a bigger web application. So yeah, some experience in the digital world and some, more design experience, marketing experience. And I started working for a digital agency called Mirabeau, which is like a Dutch, one of the bigger digital agencies at that time. You have to think back 2008, right? So a long time ago. And at that time, those agencies, they were focused on, just building websites, right? That was their core business. So there was an art director, designers, back-end, front-end developers. They did a little bit of maintenance as well. But their core function, their bread and butter was building these websites. And together with the manager, the marketing manager, we're doing a lot of B2B, say marketing for those services, basically. We started thinking of, okay, there's a gap, in that proposition. Up and coming was really the web analytics field. I had, a lot of theoretical knowledge around the topic. So from books, from, going sometimes into data sets, but not too much experience, right? So, but that was a time of I would say it was the Wild West almost of that type of consultancy. So it was very easy for me to tag along with the account managers at that time and pitch a proposition to those guys that were just building websites, right? That would, make their websites better, optimizing their websites and getting more traffic to the websites and offering them some online marketing services. And that, that world of getting people to stop thinking about, oh, that new flashy design to, making something better for their customers. That was really when it clicked for me. This is the world I want to get into. And, at that time, digital analytics data, web analytics data was really the type of data that was much more in depth, in breadth than the offline data. So it was a super interesting world to get into. Also, what I really learned at that agency, right, is that, you could, evangelize this thought process of going from understanding gut decisions to data-driven decision making. So I thought, that was really, really exciting for me. And we joined stuff like pitches. So as an agency, you do a lot of pitches, right? And what we did there was just, deep dive into the data of that client, try to get access to it and show them, okay, these are the areas where you can really improve, right? In the funnel where people are dropping off, or this page is not working well because of X, Y, Z. And we saw that in the data. And you just you popped open the eyes of these website managers, right? Or executives within those organizations and got them excited about it. And we found, numerous of insights that you're like, wow, that's just jaw-dropping, in terms of incremental value, what you could add to those organizations. If we just went into any type of data set and started finding insights. So an example is, for example, an airline that we worked for. We went into their payments data, right? Just the credit card, the ideal. It's like all of these payment service providers, and they had errors in them. And we just started figuring out, okay, this is a big bucket of errors. developers go fix that, and that just led to 500K extra incremental sales per month, right? Or
Wow.
million, or it really went quickly up, and we were able to really build up that business within the digital agency and help them kind of become partners, even better partners for the companies that they were working for. That was the start of it. And I then went from that, say, agency consultancy side to more the client side. So I was with a company called Ahold. Yeah, I'm not sure if you know it, but it's a Dutch supermarket mainly. So Albert Heijn they manage, but they have a lot of different supermarkets across the globe.
Really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I've only seen Ahold when we run a bunch of events in Amsterdam. It used to be one of my favorite cities, and I know it's basically everywhere. That's huge.
Yeah, it's a long time ago before I worked there. So, but Albert Heijn, they had the strategy to start up their e-com business. They had been doing e-com for a long time, but they were now getting serious about it because they saw in other countries like the UK, Tesco's really starting to go into the digital area, into the e-com area, and being successful there. So they thought, okay, we need to do this to be ahead of the game before all of the other competitors come in, basically, and remain, say, in our top position as the biggest supermarket in the Netherlands. And I got to build up their analytics, their web analytics environment, so implementation. We did a lot of, evangelization of the data, making sure that people started using data sets. And it was an interesting time there. Really, really also key for my understanding of how do you drive value out of data sets and get that across to key stakeholders within the organization. And I did similar things within the Blokker holding, which is again, Albert Heijn is the biggest food retailer in the Netherlands. And then it was at that time a biggest non-food retailer, which was Blokker. So they had a lot of different retail stores, from furniture to household products. They were basically owning, say, the main stores in every shopping street in the Netherlands. They decided to also go digital. And there I got to, really build out of scratch. So it was just a blank sheet. There was, an e-commerce service center being set up at that time. And we got to, do the full web analytics, set up the A/B testing, set up their big data platform. So really interesting time. And that's also when I started programming. So really focusing on R, getting up, some automation through that, but also some more intelligence. And we got to a state where we were able to, connect a lot of data sources. So the web analytics data connected to the financial data sources. And at one point we were, able to use our, say, marketing data sets and our financial data sets together and really understand, from a marketing investment point of view, how much margin we would be able to get out of that investment. So it was, pretty nice to be able to do that. And then I started with Adidas. So
what was your mandate when you joined Adidas? How did that relationship start?
How did that relationship start? I got invited by a recruiter for it. And I started having a conversation with, at that moment, the head of analytics for Europe. And things clicked, and I got a position there to make sure that they were applying their web analytics data sets to the best possible way. And that was leading to, say, setting up a more structured way to get to insights. So really working close with, say, the product organization, the guys building our websites, and making sure that we are aligning to, the goals that they had as a product organization, and started driving insights on those topics. So we were really structured in driving insights every month. That led to a lot of, I think, a nice incremental value on changes that we were just making on the websites and on the app. And then I did that for about a year and a half. Transitioned into my current position, and that's a very different position. So I'm responsible now for business performance analytics, and business performance analytics is more about cadenced reporting towards our SLT. And our SLT uses that information to also, discuss that information with the board. And one of the key, areas that we contribute to is making sure that all of the, analytical stories that we have within our organization. So we have a membership analytics team, a traffic analytics team. We have a trading analytics team really focused on the product areas. They all have their own perspective of how the business is performing. And we bring that together into a summarized understanding and make sure that, that the board understands the red line, of the story between all of those different perspectives that we have within our organization. On top of that, we're ensuring that we have a lot of self-service capabilities. So making sure that we are not basically the bottleneck to get to information. So we've set up, a lot of, standardized reporting across our organization. And that's difficult for a bigger, organization like Adidas, because you have a, big global analytics organization. Yeah, there's a lot of people here within those different analytical disciplines, but you also have market analytics organizations. So they are the more operational teams running the markets. And all of those people have different perspectives again, right? What we created with that cadence reporting, but also with that self-service reporting, is one single way to look at the business. So a single source of truth, if you will, to be able to quickly understand it. And then, of course, what you're at that point doing is reporting the news, right? You're just giving them information on, hey, this is how we did. And we're also giving information, by the way, on, hey, we're thinking that we're going to end up on this level of sales, right? For this and that reason. But that's still, I see that as reporting, right? What we're then doing is we set up this framework to be able to move an insight like that. Yeah, hey, our original business is underperforming, and we see that, mainly our footwear business there is underperforming. That might lead to a hypothesis, right? For example, hey, we see that the full price business is declining. We are increasing in say the markdown business. So hey, maybe there's full price cannibalization happening there, right? That could be something that you figure out. What we then do is take that statement, hey, there is full price cannibalization maybe, and start understanding what are all of the hypotheses we can think of to be able to, understand if that is really the reason why our business is underperforming. So translating that into hypotheses, all of these understandings, analysis that you could do, and then closely aligning that information to, potential people that could be influencing that outcome, right? If our hypothesis is true, what are we going to do with that information? Is there somebody in the organization that can take an action? And once we figured all of that out, we move through those steps, and quickly churn out, an insight that is actionable. And that's in a nutshell how my team works.
What are you most excited about right now in terms of what you guys are looking at? Maybe something that you're planning.
Yeah. So I'm super excited, and that's another highlight of the team, I think, is our capability building. So you think about, again, we're looking backward at data, and we're looking forward, trying to understand if we're going to be able to reach our target or not. For both of those areas, we're developing some tool sets, and that's more, say, in the data science world. So for the backward looking, we're thinking about, okay, how do we, as quickly as possible, bubble up what is the key thing that is driving our business? So today we're going into a dashboard, somebody's looking at it and trying to figure out, okay, what's going on? And that is, in essence, always the same steps that you're taking there. Mm-hmm. It's not really changes, right? It's always the same segmentations, the same, you look at the market, then you look at the product categories, then you look at your behavior on the web app. But, that is limited, I think, in terms of time. Somebody has to spend time, but you're also, as a human, limited in the amount of things that you could be looking at, right? If you there's millions of combinations that could be made. And we're with dynamic sequencing, that's how we're calling that, trying to bubble up immediately. Okay, this is the key thing that is driving that section of the business. And then, you could use that again, right, to go through that problem solving framework to be able to get to an actionable insight. And then on the other hand, the forward looking, we're thinking more about, okay, how can we make that an actionable thing, right? So what we're doing there is making sure that we have a forecast, but also very quickly understand how we can plan against that forecast or influence that forecast. And there's a couple of ways, that we can very, tactically change the forecast. So it's, making a change in our marketing spends. It's making a change into our pricing, basically doing commercial activations on top of our business. So doing a discount. And it might be, launching some sort of a hype business, that would immediately sell through. So that's how Adidas works. We have a lot of hype business that people are going after. If you launch one of those, it sells through very quickly, and that has a huge impact on our business. We have now, a plan to build out a tool that would allow you to plug in those commercial activations, those hype activations, those changes in your marketing spend. That's the effect that it will have on our sales. If you will, a scenario planner of sorts. Right? And we're getting pretty good results out of that already. So we're super excited about that capability.
And what I would be interested in is that, of course, in the past 10 years, your role evolved, not just because you joined different companies, but you had more and more senior roles as well, right? So going from a web analyst to a senior web analyst and a senior manager at a company like Adidas, and now you're a global director. So how did your responsibilities evolve? If you look at some of your challenges and key responsibilities and priorities, how did that change for you over the years?
Yeah, I mean, that started, of course, I think it all starts for everybody already young in the career. You need to have at least some type of leadership qualities, right, to get things done. So everybody in my mind is a leader. And I also felt already, how young I was in my career. I felt like I was, at least in some respects, an informal leader, if you will, right? Trying to influence people and trying to get people along with your ideas. Of course, that becomes more important when you're, say, going up the corporate ladder. But what is really important in the end is that you start thinking not only about yourself, but you think, or your goals, right? But you're really thinking about the goals of others. And also the goals of your team members, and being able to, think about the win-win situations that you could be creating through that. So that's a really important quality. And through that, I think you can think about, or help your team members, right, to start thinking about what they should be doing today to get to their goals that they might have later. And that's really, I think, so there's a way of thinking about that. You can think about your future self. What would be the hero future self, right, in 5 years from now? And then, that might be, hey, I will be, best data scientist that can handle, any type of model. And, that could be a goal, right? And the guy is now just a data engineer. Yeah, that's great. Then we have a goal. Then I need to give this person the right, projects on the right level that would get him in steps to that path. And if you do that, I think you create, a lot of positivity, at least for that person. And you give them the right task. You start thinking about, okay, what is really the right task for that person? Of course, with the qualities that they have. So I think that type of thinking really is important for a leadership role.
So you did not have to deal with that stuff, let's say 10 years ago, but now that you're in a more senior position.
I'm basically only thinking about that stuff.
Okay. And so I would like your insight on that, actually. So we hear this, that data scientist is the sexiest role of the 21st century. Right. And because it's like expanding, the technology is evolving, it's growing, literally like 10 million new people enter into the field of data analytics every year. career. On the flip side of that, we also see that because of this automation, a lot of data scientists or people who work in data analytics they feel threatened that they will be automated out of a job. So they're trying to future-proof their careers. So now that you think a lot about how to manage people, how to conceptualize the future hero, how to make sure that they have this steady, strong development in their careers, what would be your tip for those individuals who do want to make sure that they will be valuable, not just today, but also 2 years from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now?
Would be my tip. I mean, if there's one tip, I think is you can think about your technical set of understanding, right? But there's also something to say around your softer skill set, right? So I would also encourage somebody to be, adapting, what is really a growth mindset around also those softer topics. So things like ownership. You are the proactive person picking up the ball. Things like having courage, taking the shot, right? When the opportunity is there and going after it. Things like having a mindset of innovation, right? Trying to keep those questions coming to others, to start understanding their perspectives, and then think about how we can do those things better, right? It's as simple as that. And that's, I think, the portion of trying to get better, trying to win the game, if you will. And then there's also, you need to be somebody that's great to work with, right? So you need respect for other people. You need to have integrity. You play by the rules, right? You need to be a team player to win.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a softer skills. And this is great because you mentioned those elements of ownership, courage, this mindset of innovation / curiosity, good to work with. So have that integrity. So these things are virtues, right? The ancient Greeks call these habits of character. So that's the kind of posture that you need to assume. Earlier in the conversation, you mentioned about how exciting it was for you to pitch clients on what they can do with the data analytics. So that's also a soft skill, right? To influence someone, to persuade someone, to inspire someone to see the world in a new way that will change their beliefs and behaviors. So how important do you think those skills are specifically for data scientists? Interpersonal communication, relationship building, and then selling ideas.
Of course. I think that's the bread and butter, right? Of any person. You need to be able to sell an idea. You need to be able to be an influencer. And I think key skill set there is not to be thinking too much about, your journey to get there. It's more about, the result that, or the win that you can give the other person, right? And really thinking about their perspective. So that should be, definitely something that gets ingrained into somebody that at least wants to be in the forefront of data science. I'm not sure if everybody needs to be that, it's about the team. Yeah, so there can be people that, are just great at modeling and understanding and at least translating the ask of their, say, their product owner, for example, into a concrete product. That can be, and then they might not want to, they might not want to be in the forefront, in the limelight, if you will, to be influencing. But in the end, I do think you need to be able to explain something clearly to another person, right? So that there's that need to continue that thought of being able to really well summarize what you're doing, and able to explain that to others.
And that's exactly the kind of thing that a machine simply cannot do. So there will always be, because analytics will always serve a human enterprise. Even if you think about a company, by definition, a company is a collective of individuals. The company might have technological assets, but the company will always be human beings. Data analytics itself, it's like one of the most technologically centered aspect of business. But the sole reason for it to exist is to enable and empower people in the organization to make better decisions. So that translation will need to take place. Even if it evolves in the machine space, that ability to maybe get better insights, there will always be that gap of, okay, now we need to translate it into human language and human application. So I agree with you 100% there. With that in mind, so on the flip side, because now we talk about team management, from your view, when we mentioned beliefs and behaviors, which is again the definition of culture. So what is your take on this whole data-driven culture thing? It's being thrown around as a buzzword. We know all well, but what is even a data-driven organization from your perspective? What is data-driven culture?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there is not the perfect data-driven culture today, or at least I've never seen it in the places I've been. But I do think, once you create a culture where decisions are being based on data, or at least as much as possible, you're in a data-driven culture. And there needs to be, I think, also an element of being able to accept failure, right? And embrace failure, if you will, to have a test and learn environment. So that, to me, is not, creating data sets and making them accessible to other people, but it's really about making sure that people within that organization change, right? So if you have that transformation within an organization to be, a test and learn organization, there's always curiosity to, to really understand the problem. I think you're on your way to being a data-driven organization, whatever that is, right? Because I feel that it's something that's easy to throw out there, but there's ways, pockets and segments how data-driven you are that are not data-driven, that are being done on a gut-based kind of decision model. So I think, yeah.
So you mentioned this, that there are these different pockets still. So when we talk about data-driven business, when we talk about culture, this question of silos always comes up that people work in silos. There are data silos as well. There are silos in between the different functions and all that stuff. So from your experience, again, this is probably very different from a challenge that you might have faced back in the days of you being an online marketer, but now being at Adidas, and you tell me, I don't know, because it's a large organization, usually these silos are inherent. Was this a challenge when you came on board that, okay, people do?
Yeah, huge. I mean, that's the challenge of any analytical organization, is getting the noses pointed all in the same direction, right? It starts with even a stupid thing like a KPI. Yeah, just having that one metric on the same definition, having, a definition on your periods, right? You can be talking about a week, and then somebody's talking about a week moving from Monday to Sunday. The other person is talking about another week definition. It's always about these very small details of differences, but very important differences, because you're going to be, talking in one language and the other person is going to be talking in the other. So it's really about, going in there and making sure that you're talking to everybody about what is the common goal that you have, aligning on that goal, making sure that people are invested in the projects that you are doing, making sure that they become part of that project, right? Invest our own time and effort, and then going out to your senior leaders and explaining to them how you want to do it in a shared collaboration, right? I feel that is a trick that you need to do over and over again to be able to move forward on siloed standings. And it's really about, making sure that you're talking the same language.
So talking that language, you mentioned that you go out to your senior stakeholders and then you try to get them to buy into this idea. And again, not just because if you ask any senior leader today whether you want to be data driven, the answer is yes, but there is a lack of understanding of what that means. People don't really understand the potential of analytics. They don't really speak that language of analytics. So what did you find to be the pitfalls and the best practices when you try to convince someone, when you try to see them the art of the possible and make sure that they are actually invested in analytics?
Well, you need to be the architect, I would say, of business value, right? You need to convince them on what really matters, how they can utilize the analytics, say, mindset to be able to drive their own business, right? It's about showing the euro value. I think that's the key. there's very little that you can do or say, right, on saying, hey, you'll be making better decisions, or it just needs to come down to what will it bring as a benefit to that person. If there's no benefit, then why would they do it? So how simple it is. And once you understand their benefits and understand their world of how they're able to influence it, you become their best friend, right? It's a very, very quick process, I always feel, to be able to do that. But the key is to really listen to that person and understand, you know, what their scope is, how they're able to influence the business, then how you can help them to better make decisions on those influencing factors.
So this is the part when you actually take steps towards them to immerse yourself in their world. You know, you take the effort to take their perspective. Now, at the same time, we do hear a lot about data literacy when it comes to data-driven culture. So it's also about educating the business so that they are more data literate, they are more data fluent. Maybe that's a friendlier way of phrasing it. What is your experience in this, and what is your take on data literacy? Are you an advocate for this kind of central educational effort to make people be able to work with data directly, or do you think it's a responsibility of the data personnel to get to the level of the business? Probably it's somewhere in between, but what is your school of thought on this?
Yeah, like I said, an important part is giving self-service to people. So you don't want to be the bottleneck again and again for the simple queries, and you want to help people understand how they can get to that information very quickly. So giving them self-service capabilities in whatever form, usually it's dashboards, making sure that they understand those dashboards, you evangelize those dashboards, you market the hell out of those dashboards. That is exactly what we did with our self-service application. And now, you know, it has pivoted, you know, into becoming this tool that people just automatically refer to, right? Hey, I saw this in the data. Oh, did you check it against the BMU? Is it the same, right? It used to be the other way around. I have found a data set, and probably your dashboard is not going to be able to give an answer for that. So I think that's very key. Making sure that you give people the tools and then allow them to be trained on it, right? And give them the skill set, so give them the training on it.
So in terms of building the right solutions for the right people at the right time, we hear this at a lot of times. Data analytics functions, they have the funding, they have the appetite from the business, but they have an issue with the adoption of those solutions. Have you found that to be a challenge for you guys sometimes? Is it a pitfall that you've been exposed to often, that you barked up the wrong tree, so to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think is coming with you know, not listening to your stakeholder correctly. I've done it a lot of times. And built out a product or a solution for them that was not fitting their exact need. And if you do that, then adoption is also hard to get after that, right? You can market the hell out of whatever you build, but if it's not going to help them, then you just get stuck on that key element. You need to ensure that it's answering the question that the business has.
Got it. And then if you look at data analytics today, and if we just zoom out a little bit, moving forward, everyone says that this will be the decade of data, and there will be all kinds of opportunities and challenges that come with it. What are you most excited about now in the data world? Not specifically what you guys are working on, but maybe in general about some of the trends that are coming, maybe some of the movements in the market on data analytics that really excite you.
I'm just really excited about a lot of the opportunities that are coming with the scalability of data. So of course, everybody now has a big data platform, but you know, to really scale it out and use it well, I think has not happened yet. And some of those capabilities I was just talking about, I think are, you know, the opportunities that we see for that in our own little business performance analytics world. But I think there's a huge amount of opportunities of personalization, for example, to be done. But there is another side of that, right, where there is more and more restrictions from a privacy perspective. And I think there needs to be a rethink from the analytics community on how we deal with that. So you now have, GDPR. I forgot what the one in LA is, but you have a US version of it as well, specific in Los Angeles. And they are telling us as a say digital business community or just as a business community, hey, you cannot store information, right? You cannot store a lot of recognizable information on Mars. Well, those, recognizable information points are very, I don't want to know who that person is, but I do want to know that there's an individual, with a certain amount of detail, that what their favorite things are, what types of sports they do, what type of gender they are, what their age group is, that sort of a thing. I do want to know because I can, really market well against that. And of course, the problem with that is that they become recognizable, right? If you start, putting things together, you can get back to that person. And I think now there is a trend where we're starting to think about that a little bit differently. So imagine that if you would answer a survey, yeah, and instead of that we would measure always the correct answer, you would also have a mechanism in there that sometimes would flip the coin, yeah, and put in a random answer in there, yeah. That would kind of screw up the data, but statistically, you could still be getting to, understanding that customer profile, right? Because how you set up mathematically that data distortion, if you will. And I was in a seminar with a university some time ago, and I thought that that's going to be a game changer, right? Mm-hmm. You can actually get all of those data points still in, yeah, and collect this information and guarantee mathematically, yeah, that your privacy is still being upheld. And I thought that was a really interesting opportunity for the data community to going forward on it.
Mm. Absolutely. Well, there's a lot to look forward to.
Issue.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's a lot to look forward to. And what would be your personal recommendation for your fellow leaders? And you can, maybe even repeat yourself in certain bits, kind of like a summary as we land the plane on the podcast as well. That what would be your recommendation for leaders who want to take advantage of these new opportunities and they want to avoid those pitfalls that naturally come with these? What kind of qualities they should embody, demonstrate? What would be your 2 cents on what they should follow in terms of principles and strategies?
I think just continue on having that growth mindset, right? Stop your fixed mindset at any possible cost. Take ownership. Be courageous, pitch your ideas, and continue to learn. Really, continue to learn, right? There's a lot to learn from the peers around you, but also from the business. So seek questions, ask as many questions as you can, and keep on envisioning new worlds, right? And yeah, I just love, thinking about a new world, envision it, and then start telling people about it. Yeah? Mm-hmm. That's, if you do that, and continue doing that, then I think it's the world is yours, right? You can get into any new situation, whether that's by the way, in analytics or maybe another field. It really is a great way to think about how you innovate on things. And then, of course, keep being humble, keep having respect to other people. Integrity, make sure that you're the trustable guy to go to. And to make sure that you share your wins with everybody, right? If you're not doing this alone, right? You're doing it together with your team, and you need to really make sure that they get the light on it, right? Not per se yourself. Do those things. I think you can get anywhere.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I like so much about the world of data analytics, that you guys are essentially the purveyors of truth in the business. You hold that key. You have access to the real world data, the truth. And at the same time, you're called to this immense humility. You have probably one of the largest like engine of brain power in the entire business, but you need to be humble because you are a service organization too, and you're kind of forced to embody those qualities, which I really enjoy. That I see successful people build out these powerful functions. You can always find that constant focus on humility, on that a mindset on service, moving away from, you know, what I would like to build and what I would like to do of, okay, what is useful here, right? So absolutely. So this was great, Michel. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think we to land the plane now, but we look forward to working with you moving forward. Maybe we can get you on a thought leadership piece at some point where you can we talk about your best practices on team management or whatever that topic might be. So that's really good, and hope to see you back soon.
All right. Thanks, Laszlo. It's great to be here. Thanks for listening to me jabber on. I would say.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Was,
there were so many
good.
golden nuggets in there. Absolutely.
All right. Cool. Thanks a lot.